Okay, so welcome to Asher and Torah Anytime, and we're about to embark on Perek Hey, and it's going to get exciting. So we left off where all of the calamities that were told to Eli happened. Eli HaKohen dies, his children died, his daughter-in-law dies, and the Aron is captured. The ark is captured. Uflishtim lokhu es Adonu elikim ve'yeviu me'even ha'ezer Ashdoido. So the Plishtim take the ark. They're all excited that they captured the ark, and they brought it from Even Ha'ezer, and they brought it to Ashdod. So I actually wanted to have a color printer, but Hashem didn't want. But let me see if I see the map didn't get printed. The map? Okay, see if you can find the map. If not, then just divide it up. Okay, anyway, I printed out a map. I wanted to show everybody the travels of the ark. But anyway, they brought it from Even Ha'ezer to Ashdod. Now Ashdod is a great Philistine city in that time period. Vayikhu Plishtim es Adonu elikim ve'yeviu oisoi beis Dagon. So they brought it to the house of Dagon. Now we're going to talk about Dagon soon. It's a very interesting god. Vayatzigu oisoi eitzel Dagon. So they take the ark and they put it in front of Dagon, this idol Dagon. So let's talk a second about Dagon. Just divide this up into two separate piles. No, not yet. Leave it here. Let's just divide this up. All I want the Olam to see now is this picture. Now this picture is from a base relief in Sumeria or somewhere, and for some reason there's an argument. What is this god of Dagon? So some say, and this is the majority opinion, that Dagon is a fish god. If you see on the pictures, you can see it's a fish god. Leave it here. Leave it. It's a fish god, and actually I had it in color. You can see that it's like a semi-fish. It's not like a mermaid.
A merman.
A merman, right? It's like a merman, and
a mer person.
So the assumption that this Dagon is a fish god is based on the word like dogim, somewhere like a play on the word dogim, dogon, and that's one assumption. The other argument is that Dagon is a grain god. Comes from the word of Dagan. It's a god of grain. Now, in the ancient world, gods were in zones. They were in territories. Gods had like a municipality where they ruled, where they were the deity. So if you were like the god of, let's say if you were a fertility god, so then you owned anything that had to do with fertility. If you were like a livestock god, then you had to do anything that had to do with livestock. If you were a fish god, and you were near the water, which Ashdod is near the water, so that means you were the god of the sea. But you only had jurisdiction near the area near the sea. Just you should understand how ancient gods are working in that time period. Now, if you ever read or watched Rabbi Foreman on Aleph Beta, or if you read his book on the Exodus, you almost passed over, you'll know that the whole entire Yetzias Mitzrayim is a story of God teaching the world that He's infinite. He's past just little. He's not a governor that's in a little space. He's everything. And this is a major mind shift that's going on in the minds of humanity to learn this. Now, once you get this idea and you go into the word of Dagon, you understand what's happening over here. Where Vayikhu Plishtim es Adonu elikim ve'yeviu oisei beis Dagon ve'yitzigu oisei Dagon. So the Mefarshim have two pshatim here. Either that they took the Aron and they placed it. So Dagon, if you can imagine this huge fish god standing, so they take the Aron, which is relatively smaller, and they put it in front of Dagon. So either it's because they wanted to bring the gods together, like they captured a Jewish god, and they're assuming that gods like to hang out with gods. So they put the gods together. It's like, he's a Rebbe, I'm a Rebbe, L'chaim, in front of that table. The other pshat is that they put him in front of Dagon because they wanted to show that Dagon is the powerful God, and our God beat the Jewish God, and now he's going to be submissive in front of Dagon. Next morning, the Ashdoidim wake up. And Dagon fell down l'fnei Adon Hashem. So that was this picture that I found of this artist's rendition of how the fish god is now, this fish god is now prostrated. See the fish god over here is prostrated in front of the ark. Or here you have this ancient bas relief of a fish god, which was actually probably taken from the Assyrians, and it wasn't actually a Dagon. But regardless, Vayashkimu mimachras v'hinei Dagon in front of Arza l'fnei Hashem v'yikchu es Dagon v'shivo es l'mkoima. So they take Dagon and they put it back up. They figured it was a mistake. Something happened during the night. It wasn't set up properly. Something happened. It fell down. Vayashkimu v'aboikim mimachras. Get up the next morning. V'hinei Dagon noifel l'fon of Arza l'fnei Adon Hashem. And now Dagon falls a second time, but this time Roish Dagon ushtei kapos yodov krusois al hamifton. His head and his hands, assuming that it's the fish god, his head and his hands are broken off. So you're only left with the body of the fish. So that's a big problem. That's a huge problem. And it's el hamifton means the threshold. Rag Dagon nishar olav. Only the Dagon part or the body was left, but it was without any head or hands. Now, because of this story, Al Kain lo yidrichu kohanei Dagon v'chalaboyim beis Dagon al mifton Dagon b'ashdod adayom hazeh. So it's as if like, Shmuel Hanavi is telling you history over here. He's telling, by the way, if you were ever in Dagon, you were ever in Ashdod, and you ever wondered why people don't step on the threshold there, it's like, like you step over a crack, you step over the threshold, you don't step on the threshold. It's because of that story where the head and the hands were broken on the threshold. So it became like a place where the head of the god was. Nobody steps there. What I found from the archaeologists and from the academics was that in the ancient world, thresholds are a very important component of worship to deities and to gods. Because being that a god is in a domain, when you passed over the threshold means you're in the domain of the god. Now, the ancient thresholds of the temples used to have dug out in it like a bowl. And people would bring their sacrifice in that bowl, and like being makter the ketores in the threshold in front of the god. So when the head of Dagon falls there, and now a calamity happened on the threshold, it meant that there was like something happened on the boundary of this Dagon, this god, this Dagan god. His threshold was rattled. Haya irur. There was like a threat to the establishment of his threshold. Compromised. So vatichbad yad Hashem el ha'ashdoidim vayesimem. So now God strikes the Ashdoidim. Vayach oisem bat choidim. And he struck them with tchoidim. So here I was busy with this a whole week to figure out what in the world is this tchoidim. There's a kri and a ksiv here. This tchoidim or bafoilim. So regardless bat tchoidim or bafoilim, so there's two translations on it. There's the common translation from the JTS version of Nach, which is they translate it as hemorrhoids. That the people got afflicted with hemorrhoids. Probably the more proper translation is that they got tumors. But they got tumors in the rectal area. So either it means hemorrhoids or it means tumors. Now if you go later on, you'll see that these tchoidim, or either the hemorrhoids or these tumors, came from rats or from mice. So again, we'll see as we go on. It was very confusing until I was able to put together the picture. But regardless, everybody has loose bowels. Everybody's in extreme pain. So vayachosem bat choirim es Ashdod ves gvuleo. Vayiru anshe Ashdod ki kein. The people from Ashdod saw the situation going on, that everybody's having hemorrhoids and everybody's bleeding and having diarrhea. Vayiru anshe Ashdod kikein v'amru lo yeshav Aroinu lekei Yisrael lemanu. We don't want the ark of the God with us. This ark, this new God, this ark of the God is making problems. He hits you where it hurts. Because the hand of God is hard. And our God, and our deity, and he knocked off his head. So what do you do next? So now we have to get this God of Israel out of here. We have to move him out of here. They called the governors of the Plishtim. Now there's 5 governors you see later on. There's 5 major Plishti cities. What should we do with the Ark of the Jews? The Ark of the God of Israel. They decided, let's divert it to Gat. Now the next place on the map after Ashdod, the next city over is Gat. We're going to, like this Kiryat Gat near Yisrael, to Gat. We're going to send them over to Gat. Aroinu lekei Yisrael. Vayasebu es Aroinu lekei Yisrael, and they diverted, or they sent the ark down to Gat. They wanted to get the ark of the God of Israel out of the way. Now, vahi achrei she'asebu oisai, it was after that they sent the Aron away. Vati yad Hashem ba'ir Gat, and now Gat gets struck. Muhuma gedoyle ma'od, there's a tremendous commotion. Vayachas anshe ha'ir mikoten v'ad gadol, and everybody got all different types of plagues. Vayishasru lahem tchoirim, and their bowels got hit with tchoirim, which is either hemorrhoids or tumors. Vayishalchu es Aroinu lekim Ekron. So now the people of Gat have a problem. They say, hey, we don't want this ark either. So they send it on to Ekron. Ekron is the next city over. So we're already up to the 3rd destination. We're starting off from Even Ezer. From Even Ezer it gets to Ashdod. From Ashdod it goes to Gat. From Gat it goes to Ekron. So that's like an important Flishti city. Now the Ark of God comes to Ekron. And the Ekronim started to scream, you brought here the Ark of the Jewish people, of the Jewish God, to kill us and the people. It's only bringing problems. So what do the people from Ekron do? They send it over. They send it next. So the people of Ekron and they gather all of the governors. Get rid of this Aron from God and let it return to its place. And it should stop killing us and the people. There was a tremendous tumult of death. The hand of God was very heavy there. And those that didn't die got hit with this affliction. And the cry of the people went up till the heavens. And the ark of God was in the field for 7 months. Now, here is where it starts to play a difference what Dagon was. If Dagon is a fish god, so then the fact that it's in 7 months in the fields doesn't have so much meaning. But if Dagon is the god of the grain and the god of the fields, and now the Aron, and now the Aron Olekim was in the fields for 7 months, that was a tremendous blow to the idea of Dagon. Because Dagon is the one who controls all the fields. He's the one of the grain god, and now the god that they thought is going to be submissive is actually in control. He's now in charge, and he's causing afflictions all over. Now, Vayikru Pelishtim l'kehanim v'lakoismim. So the Pelishtim called their priests and their magic men, their koismim. Now, in the ancient world, there's 2 types of holy men. They're priests, who they know how to deal with anything that has to do with holiness. And then there's koismen, which are like diviners. These are people who know what's going on in the heavens. These are people who can see what's happening in the upper worlds or beyond. Shamans, maybe. Astrologers, anything that has to do with the beyond are called koisem. So a kohen doesn't know what's going on in the beyond. He's just doing the service to bring sacrifices and honor the deity. The koisem are the ones who know what's happening beyond. So they called both of them. And they said, Ma nasa la'adoin Hashem. What should we do with this ark? Nothing helped. Kesem is magic. It's a Hebrew modern translation based on the idea of diviners. It turned into what we call magic. What should we do to send it to its place? Let's send it back. But the problem is, they said, by just sending it back, that's not enough. Because we humiliated this God. We humiliated Adon Hashem. We have to compensate this humiliation that we caused, that we captured the ark, and we have to pay restitution. We have to give something back now to the God of Israel, so that He should take away our afflictions. And the priests and the diviner said, if you're going to send back the ark, don't send them back empty-handed. Send them back with some type of a carbon, like a asham is like a guilt offering. Let's bring a guilt offering that's going to show that we regret what we did and that He should take away the afflictions that He caused us. Then we'll be healed. And then we'll know why the afflictions didn't go away from us. Now, the Mefarshim explained that the reason why they called Kohanim and Koismim was because they weren't sure that it was being caused by the Aron. They were still having this doubt in their mind that maybe it's two separate events that happen simultaneously. So they called the Koismim in order to figure out, to make a test that would clarify for them, is this being caused by God or not? So the priests were here to tell them what sacrifice to bring, and the Koismim were here to set them up to make a test to see if God is behind this or not. What did they do? What's the asham we should bring? So the priest said, remember the priests and the Koismim, the priests say, Mispar sarnei plishtim chamishet chorezav. There's 5 plishtim governors. Bring 5 golden hemorrhoids or 5 golden tumors. So that's what I printed out over here, because I couldn't figure out for the life of me what in the world golden hemorrhoids are. Like, how do you give a golden hemorrhoid? Or it's like the strangest thing I ever did. So here you can see what it means is a golden hemorrhoid or a golden tumor means that if the tumor was a lump, so you should give 5 lumps of gold which represent. Now, this is also something I found from the academics, that this was a common practice in the ancient world, where when you came to a deity with an affliction, you brought it in gold. You brought something that represented your affliction in gold, and you brought it as a sacrifice to the priests and to the God in order that He should heal you from this affliction. So that's what they did. So these are like 5 lumps of gold. It took me 2 days to just figure out what was going on over here. And the next thing is what, so they said, bring 5 tchoirei zahav. Something that it means the gold that had like a tzura on it, that it was like carved out on it, like a picture of a tumor. V'chamisha achberei zahav, and 5 golden mice. So here I was also lost, like, what's these golden mice? So anyway, this was another version of what I found. This was like the tchoirim, this is like a tumor, like a golden tumor, or a hemorrhoid, that's something that looks at them, and these are golden mice. Now,
these are archaeological findings?
No. The only archaeological finding was the fish god, the doggone fish god, which is a mystery. It's archaeological. It's engraved. It's a base, but it's not clear that it's actually the god of Dagon, but that there was such a god that existed, which is probably where it's based off. But so what's the story with the 5 mice? Ki magefu achas lekulam ulestar nechem. Because there's one magefa that's going around in all of the cities, and therefore all the governors who are representing the heads of these cities had to bring this peace offering in order to take away the affliction. So what's the deal with these mice? The deal with these mice is, again, there's 2 shittas in it. There's 2 days. One day is Rashi, the way Rashi goes, the way Rashi understands it, and because they had hemorrhoids, and in the ancient world, when you went out to defecate and you had like a whole pile of excrement, there was mice there. So being that they were so much in pain, it was mice, field mice. So these mice would disembowel them somehow. The academic pshat is that this was a bubonic plague. This is a bubonic plague where there's mice, and the mice are carrying disease, and the mice are carrying the disease which is causing the people to have these hemorrhoids or these tumors. So therefore, being that the mice was the source of what brought this plague, they brought a mice, they brought these mice, and then they also brought the tchorim. Vasisam tzalmei tchorim v'tzalmei achberechem, hamashchisem es ha'aret v'nesatem lekei Yisrael kovod, ule yaker les yodem alechem alekechem al artzechem. So when you go with the pshat that the god of Dagon is a grain god, everything stims. The whole story stims. Because you're talking here about, that's why it makes sense why he's out on the fields, why the Aaron is left on the fields for 7 months. It also makes sense that the mice are destroying the crops. It's there's one big mess going on with mice, disease, crops, Dagon falling.
Why is it shaped like a fish?
That's on the opinion that Dagon is a fish god. I mean, that's like much more on like on that version of what Dagon is. It said, why should you harden your hearts just like Pare did? Now you have to understand that the Plishtim and Mitzrayim are in allegiance in that time period. So they know what happened to Mitzrayim. And they're saying, look, we know what happened to Mitzrayim. So why would we want to do the same things to ourselves? Just like God humiliated them, and then the Mitzrayim had to send out the Jews when they left. Do we want to do the same thing? That we want to mess with the God and then He's going to totally destroy us? So now come the Koismim, which are the diviners, and they say, look, the priests have spoken. This is what you guys should bring in order to appease the God. Now let's make a test. Now here's the test that they made. Make a brand new wagon. And I want you to take 2 pregnant cows. Not pregnant cows. Cows that just gave birth. 2 nursing cows. Oil, which never had a yoke. And you're going to tie these cows behind in the barn. So now these 2 nursing cows naturally are going to want to stay with their young. And now you're going to tie them to this wagon. And here's going to be the test. So leave their babies at home. And you're going to take the ark and put it on this new wagon. And all of these golden vessels, that all of the presents, the gifts, the mice and the tchorim, you're going to put in a kasten, in a box, in a chest, and you're going to send it and go. Now here's the test. If it's going to go straight to Bet Shemesh, where that's where the Jews were, then you're going to know who asalanu esara gedoy lazois. Then you're going to know that God is the one who did it. And if not, but if they're going to return home and they're going to stay stuck, that they want to be near their children, it wasn't God's hand who afflicted us. It's something that happened by chance. So this was the Koismim's idea, how they're going to test to make sure if it's from God or not. So that's what the people did. So they took these 2 nursing cows, they harnessed it to the wagon, and the children or the young calves they left at home. They put the ark on the agolo, the mice, the hemorrhoids, the whole deal. And the cows began to go in a straight line, exactly a straight line on the way to Bet Shemesh. They're going straight. They have a GPS destination which is taking them straight. They're not veering right or left. They know exactly where they have to go. And the governors of the Pelishtim, which are the important people, are following behind it, Ad Gvul Bet Shemesh, until the border of Bet Shemesh. So, what basically happened over here until now is that the Pelishtim experienced God revealing himself that I don't work in a box. Now, the funny thing is that the Aron has to be in a box. The Aron is a box. The Aron is a box that has to be kept in the Kodesh Kodeshim, which is another box. The Aron has to be kept in a secluded private place. The Aron doesn't want to be all over the place.
Why are they married to such a nice?
That's a very good question, and this question really goes that I once heard from so I was once by Fabrengen by an old chassid, and he was saying that in the entire Torah, there's no such a thing as Apikarsim, the way we know Apikarsim. That means like this: this Paroi says, "I'm God," but people who don't believe in the divine or don't believe in a higher power doesn't exist in the Bible. This concept that we call today of like an atheist doesn't exist in the entire Bible. This concept doesn't exist of atheism. This apikoides in biblical terms means somebody who's fighting. If there's he's fighting against one God. He's saying he's a God. He's saying there's other gods, but everybody's on consensus in the ancient world. This concept that the world can exist without a higher power didn't exist. It's not an idea that's discussed. So in that world where everybody believes in a higher power, so God is mitmoded. He's barechen sich mit dich. He's goydes. How do you say he's goydes? He acknowledges your existence. Paroi isn't. God and Paroi are in a very close relationship. God is like very, very busy with Paroi. That is makas. He's going to teach them. He's going to show them. This idea that we have today, what we call apikarsim, which is called people who don't believe. First of all, even in the world, I want to ask you a question. In the entire, from all the humans in the world, let's say there's 8 billion people in the world. What percentage of the world doesn't believe that there's a higher power? I'm not talking about if you believe in religion or not. I'm talking about doesn't believe in the existence of a higher power. I asked the Google Adar, and it's basically like maybe 5% of the world who are professed atheists, meaning that they don't believe that there's a higher power. They don't believe there's anything beyond controlling.
What is that higher? Mazulas.
That means that they believe like Dawkins or Hawkins that the world is it's a self-sustaining model, that it's hechrechi, that there's no higher power that's creating or that's involved in it. Now, I'm not talking about people who are fighting against like organized religion. There's many people who are spiritual and they don't follow organized religions, but they still believe there's a higher power and that there's divinity in the world and the spirituality. But there's very, very few people in the Bria, in the creation, who don't believe that there's anything beyond. It doesn't exist. It's a fairly recent phenomena, this whole idea of, it's a new chiddush. So anyway, that's the answer. The answer is that the Torah, as long as it's like this, they used to say, in Chabad, there used to be this story joke, where somebody came, he said he wanted to meet Apikoidus. They said, wow, if you go to Babroisk, there's Apikoidus in Babroisk, big Apikoidus. Okay, he travels down to the Apikoidus in Babroisk, and he says, where's the Apikoidus? Where's the Apikoidus? He said, well, he's in Shul. I said, no, he's in Shul. I thought he's a Apikoidus. He said, he's in Shul. He goes down to Shul, and he says, where's Yankel Apikoidus? He says, he's sitting there in the corner. He goes over, the guy's wearing talis and tefillin, and he's sitting there, he's learning Gemara. And he says, are you the Apikoidus? You're the great, famous... He says, yeah. He says, what do you mean? Why in the world are you wearing... I thought you're an Apikoidus. He said, why not? Why not? He said, what do you mean? I mean, I thought you don't believe. I said, don't believe what? When you really, 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 really don't believe, you have no problem to wear tefillin. The second you're not wearing tefillin, you're already acknowledging that there's something. You're already in a relationship. It's like Shalom Aleichem, we can do business. You're good. Like the guy who's fighting and yelling and screaming and kicking, he's acknowledging that there's something, and he's battling with it. The Torah has no problem with that. I mean, he has a problem, but the Torah is good. It's the real Apikoidis is the one. There's nothing, and it almost doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. Like when you go to Eretz Yisrael and you meet a Chiloni, and the Chiloni is yelling at you. Why yelling? Why yelling? What are you yelling about? There's something. There's something that means you're fighting against a concept. The real Apikoros don't believe that there's even a concept to fight against. There's nothing there. The Torah talks about people. It's like Rabbi Weinberg from Eish HaTorah. He loved Chaver who used to come in and fight. The guys who used to come in and fight, those were his best customers. The guys who used to fight in a fight, that means there's somebody, you're thinking, you have a problem, we can answer it, we can talk about it, you're bothered by it, you have emotions, it's alive. When you're apathetic, when you don't care, when it doesn't make a difference to you, then you're dead. But as long as, so the Torah talks about people who are fighting God, and God explains it to them, they're alive. Anyway, back on the main road, the story is about how God is having people experience that He's infinite, He passes thresholds, He controls everything. Vayasu anoshim kain. So the people did it. So we went to Vayasharnu, they go up to Bet Shemesh. Okay, so now we change scenes and we're talking here about the people in Bet Shemesh. And the people in Bet Shemesh are cutting wheat. Be'emek, in the valley. They lifted their eyes, they saw the Aron. They couldn't believe it. They were like, wow, the ark has returned. And the Agala came, and it stopped by a person by the field of a person named Yeshua Beis Hashimshi. Stopped there. And there was a great stone. So they split the wood of the wagon. They take the wagon, they split up the wood of it, and they brought these paras for a sacrifice. They took down the aron and the chest. They put it on the great stone. No, the Jews were makriv the karbanis of the Plishtim. They accepted the paras. They accepted back the ark. They accepted it, and they brought it back to Hashem.
And this wagon and everything is part of it. It's very interesting.
Right, and this wagon
was the wood.
They took those paras.
Right. One second. They took those paras and the wagon. So they put the wagon and the paras for the wood and the paras on top. And the gold, it says they put it on a stone, and it's not saying what exactly happened to it. Ve'ela v'chamishe sarnei Plishtim, and the 5 governors of the Plishtim, Ro v'yashuvu le'ekron b'yoymahu. They saw what happened, so they realized that yes, it was from Hashem, and they returned back, and they went back.
Did they feel better? You know?
We hope so. Ve'ela t'choyrei azov. So these is the cheshbon that we're making. These are these hemorrhoids, golden hemorrhoids that the Plishtim returned as an offering to Hashem. So these are the 5 cities, and each one they had this lump of gold that they brought. But the golden mice, which they brought much, much more. Why? they brought against the 5 cities, but also all of the small neighborhoods within it. It seems like that because the mice were the cause of this plague, they brought much more of these gold mice. Va'ad ovel hagdoilo asher enicho le'asaron Hashem, until this great stone ad hayoim hazeh b'shdei Yeshua b'esh hashimshi. Vayach ba'anshei b'esh hashimshi. Now comes the opposite part of the story, where the Jews are all excited. Now the Jews are all excited the Aron came back. Now people are very curious to see the Aron. So they were very, very happy that the Aron came back, but along with the happiness that the Aron came back, they were also curious to check out the Aron, because who got to see the Aron? The Aron was always locked up in Shiloh. Nobody got to see the Aron. The Aron was like the holiest thing. The Kohen Gadol saw the Aron once a year, and everybody knows, like historically, even going down future, many Kohen Gadol never even came out to tell about the fact that they saw it. And now Hashem doesn't appreciate that the Aron became a new tourist attraction. So now the Aron, which is the new tourist attraction, is now hitting the Jews, because everybody came to check it out, and it became a party. So because it was a party, the party got a little out of control. And they started to get wild. Vayach ba'om shivim ish, chamishim elef ish. So they hit 70 people died, 50,000 people. The Farshim say it doesn't mean actually 50,000 people. It means the 70 people who were hit were prominent people, so it was as if 50,000 people died. And the people were distraught that Hashem hit them with this tremendous blow. So now the people of Bet Shemesh, so you have to understand that God, it doesn't work like that, hey, because I won, and now the Pelishtim got beaten, and now I got the Aron, okay, so now we can do whatever we want. Hashem wants a certain hanhaga in the world. He wants things to operate a certain way, and He's going to be, it's going to affect everybody equally. What are we going to do? Who can stand before our holy God? We don't know how to treat a Aron. How do you treat the Aron? How are we going to take this away? What are we supposed to do with an Aron? What do you do when you have an Aron which was stripped of its sancticity, it was taken out of its home, it was...
Put it back.
Huh?
Put it back.
Put it back, but there's no back. Oh, so the Mefarshim talk about it. Why didn't they just send it back to Shiloh? The answer is that it seems like the Pelishtim destroyed Shiloh. After they won the battle and they took out the ark, Shiloh never gets mentioned again as a place of worship. So it seems that was the end of Shiloh. So there was no Shiloh anymore. So the Aron was homeless. And a homeless Aron was wreaking havoc wherever it went. And this all came from the first mistake where the Yidden decided that they're going to take the Aron out of the Beis Hashem and bring it to the battlefield because that's going to give them power to win. Vayishlechu malachim, so they sent... Right, that's right. Shmuel is going to come in the next chapter. Vayishlechu malachim el yoshvei kiryas ya'arim, so they send messengers to Kiryas Ya'arim, lemor, heishivu pelishtim es erein Hashem, the Pelishtim returned the ark of the Lord, ridu halu oisei aleichem, please take it back up. We need to find a way how to be mechabed the Aron and how to treat it the way it has to be treated. And the next chapters are going to continue on how the Aron gets back home. The Aron came, they were very excited, everybody came to check it out, they made a party, because, so let's go there. So the Aron is always kept in the Kodesh HaKadoshim, in the holiest of, it's the holiest of the holy. Now the Aron in Kabbalah,
nobody sees it.
Nobody sees it. Why? And the Aron, even in the Aron is called, it's like in the Kabbalistic terms, it's the Cheder HaMitos, it's the place where you have the holiest of the holy, where there's the Kruvim. The Kruvim are a boy and a girl. It's the place of sancticity, of intimacy, it's the connection of the Lord. And there's certain things that have to be b'tznius. There's certain things that have to be hidden in order for them to be effective. Something which is extremely powerful and extremely intimate, if it's exposed, and this pritzis, meaning there's a pirza, so then it loses its ability to do what it needs to do.
Did they know that?
Obviously not. If you go back in the beginning of what we learned in Nach,
Why did they get punished?
No, in the beginning of Nach, we spoke about how there was corruption in Shiloh. So there was no respect for the entire institution of bringing karbanos. So the whole infrastructure was broken down. So, there was a long chain of events that led until the Aron was able. The fact that they were even able to take the Aron out to use it for their personal benefit to win a battle was already a corruption, because there was a system of how things are supposed to run. And the whole story is how the people learned that, first of all, God is infinite. He controls everything else, and you better treat him with respect and sanctify him and put him in a higher pedestal in order that he should be able to be our God. That means you can't be friends. It's like the Aron is not your monkey in the zoo that you come to check out. The Aron remains where it has to be, and you can never get to see it, but that's when it can help the Jewish people and help connect you to Hashem.